Today I'm going to do a tutorial about finding jewelry and gemstones and at thrift stores, at antique stores, and um, and and I'm going to probably talk a little bit too about like how you can find them at auctions, you know, and lots, and see things that have been missed to the extent that as some people who have channels that buy and sell this stuff, I'm more of a collector and someone who shares things. And but that basically have been doing this for decades, and they've been on YouTube for since the mid 2000s, and the same thrift stores are still producing the same kind of stuff, and even ones they're following all of the seminar rules. They're using AI. They have they even have volunteers, not just pawn shop volunteers, but jewelers. And you're going to see why that it would be nearly nothing's impossible, but I would say that it's as close to impossible as I could think for them to have a perfect system. Even the machine that you can put the metal in, it has error rates. And the dirtier the jewelry is or other materials that are in it, increase that. Um, so yeah, and this. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I'm going to show you some examples, and I'm going to basically show you the things that I use in this process, which is not very much. I use a loop that has a light and a black light. And the reason is the light, and I don't guide with these other people tell you only use a 10 times loop. Uh, I just use I don't have any problem with. In fact, I prefer uh, a 30 to 40 times loop. The reason they do is that if you have a lab and you are physically taking things in, you have a microscope. I have a microscope. I have digital ones. I can go 5,000 times, magnification. But if you're out in the field and you don't have that option where you can take things back with you and stuff, having a little bit more because of the writing on things when you're looking at things that are made of materials is good. Uh, and you get a metal one, don't get one of the little flimsy plastic ones because they're usually not what they say they are magnification wise, and the light and everything breaks. Sometimes they come broken. But basically, and they're heavy, so don't drop it or hit it on the table or break things. But the point is, with the black light, certain metals inside, like if you have a ruby, you probably won't be able to see it on this. I don't know if you can see it from here or not, or if I can get it in there. But basically, they'll fluoresce, they'll glow because they have chromium, boron, and aluminum and diamonds will fluoresce. So a lot of diamonds will fluoresce. And what these things do, in addition to seeing the types of inclusions that you can learn when we talk about the gemstone thing, uh, we'll talk about that now, is that you can see all of the imperfections inside the stones. Like, ruby, here you can see, like, when I move it, you may not be able to see on the camera, but you can see, if you look very carefully, you can see how there's rutile forming, which are little metal rods. And when the rutiles cross, they will create a star, and you get star ruby and star sapphire. And it's natural and not diffused if if you can see the hexagonal shape on the crystal on the top or underneath the stone is most likely a natural stone, especially if the star goes all the way over, and if you can find more than one star forming, because usually natural ones will have more than one star if you get enough light in the right way. And whereas the diffused ones, a lot of times they're cut off because generally because you're using inclusions to create the effect, I only have one loop clean real star corundum. And it's exceptionally rare, especially in that size. But because of that, they're going to be dirty. But so what they'll do is they'll take dirtier crystals that are not centered, and then they will diffuse the star into them. Or they will take lab created stones and then diffuse it into the stone. And then of course the actual stars, they have depth to them, and there'll usually be more than one if you use enough lights or enough light. It won't show all the time in normal lighting, but if you put multiple lights on it in multiple directions, you'll find more than one star. So basically, that's what will occur. They also won't have depth in ones where you can see some depth in the stone because it's on the surface, it's diffused into the stone. But star rubies and sapphires are some among the easiest stones to authenticate and trade that way, because someone that understands the corundum can very easily, with a little knowledge, tell you if it's real or fake. Whereas others, they can be so sophisticated that you may need the assistance of some labs. But anyway, because you'll need specialized equipment. So we'll get more a little about the stones. So when I'm looking for stones, like in a thrift store or an antique store, what I really love are the bags of mixed things. They have plastic beads in them sometimes. They have glass. They have fake pearls, real pearls, a little bit of everything. And the reason is I'll look on them outside, I'll observe, and I'll try to find something that I have learned is real. So I'll learn about the different stones, because I've collected stones since I was 7 years old, the gem ones. And what you're looking for are things of value, and you're looking for enough of value in that bag to where you know that it's worth more than what you're buying. So I like, you might want to find a couple jade beads, some pearl beads, and they don't really, the color looks as such where they're probably not dyed. They could still be. And then you're finding a few pearls, and then maybe some actual real looking turquoise. Here's some turquoise that I have bagged up and saved. And you can kind of see real turquoise, the color of the inclusion will not be exactly the same, because there are different depths and there are different types of inclusions. And the color will not go like white or completely white. It will not go white once you look past the stem. The color, while it may not be 100% consistent, it won't be like howlite, which is one of the big simulates that's dyed. And turquoise comes in different colors and shades. You have purple, blue, you have red, and they all have like different origins and different deposits. And it can be anywhere from, a piece of turquoise can be anywhere from a few dollars to thousands of dollars, depending on if it's a closed down mine with a desirable color and its size. This is another thing you might find is red coral, and you'll see that if you look at it, you can see that there's like shapes and stuff that form inside the material, and it's because it's a type of coral that would come from Italy or Japan. And because it's red, it's extremely popular with the Chinese, and it's very restricted, and it's harvesting. And because of that, there's certain places you can't sell things like that. I even found, you'll even sometimes find diamonds that you'll save over time. And if you want to do a lot of stones, I have a presidium tester at home, and to verify once you pull them out of there or in your jewelry, you can use the presidium tester and the microscope. You learn about the inclusions, and you want to get a refractometer, and you want to know the refractive index of the stone. And after that, you confirm the hardness. If you know that the correct inclusions in there, you know that the presidium, all of this stuff, it's pretty safe that it's the material you're looking at. Really, with the presidium tester, the odds are great that it's that material if it's the correct color and you can see the right kind of inclusion in it. But it may be treated at that point or synthetic. In some cases, still synthetic, even with the right inclusion. Depends on the stone. Now, there's things that people like. Another thing that you might find. Now, this ruby did not come from there. Somewhere else I got this. But this is boulder opal right here, and then this is dendrite opal. And so you'll find little things that look like they're crafting. And the people that sort it are like, well, this must be for crafting because it says something gem and it comes in this thing. But there actually could be valuable stones in there that they may not find, and they could be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. And to someone who works from a pawn shop or is a jeweler that doesn't deal in that type of material, or even if the AI can't match the stone properly, they may miss it, and they do, including with the AI sometimes. And I've done examples with that with my photo search, where you have lab reported stones that come out as something else. This is something you can find very rare things and very well priced things. This was in a piece of costume jewelry, and there were several stones similar size, and they were all set, and they weren't really stones. This was the only one, and this is a Jeremijevite, and it's extremely rare. There's about 1,000 of them in the world, and there's a lot less than that are faceted like this, and they come from Russia. And they're valuable, but if it was something else that was that valuable, you would be talking six figures to millions. But in this case, it's high thousands probably at an auction. But to people that collect minerals, it's a high museum piece that a lot of museums couldn't get a hold of, because in a faceted piece it's even rarer than that, and they're kind of cool looking. They change colors. This is a piece of costume jewelry, and it's actually something that cannot be replicated in a lab commercially. This is a rubellite tourmaline. It's a pink to reddish tourmaline type. And so when we talk about stones, I was looking at this, and the light was hitting it, and I was noticing things. One of them is that there was a certain life to the stone. Real stones have life. The synthetics mostly look like glass, or with diamonds, unless you know right, they look like almost close to a CZ. So when I saw it acting like a mineral when light was moving through it, I said, well, let me look at this. I'll buy it. And I did. I could tell that it was cut, because you can see inside the rim, you can see that there's a pavilion. Another thing I can see is that there's glue. This was glued in, and this was not the original thing, because you could see where the top had been bent before and then had been removed. And this fit very snugly and close, but this is not a factory piece. So, and then I could feel, it felt like a mineral too. It felt cold. It has a certain feeling and consistency. This one is more silky than like a rough stone. So I took it home. I thought this is going to be a garnet, a lab pink spinel, or a tourmaline. But it could be something. But it could be either a real garnet or a tourmaline. And I was fine with that either way, and that's what I told them. So I took it home, and I tested it, and it was a pink. And I looked at it, and it was a rubellite. And there's multiple reasons people do that, but one very plausible one is that they're hiding it from someone. Often they don't want someone in their family to get certain assets they have when they die, so they're hiding it from specific people. And so they will, and this is why you shouldn't speak too loudly, because if they try to find their family, they may learn that their dad or their mom did not want them to have something of value. And that might be very upsetting to some people. But in some cases, they may already know that, and there may be reasons why they shouldn't have it. But, and I will often talk to people about the things that I buy, and it's okay sometimes. I mean, some of these people have been doing it for many, many years. So, there's a lot of stones that can be of great value, and they never have any metal. One where a single bangle could be worth as much as a skyscraper, and they exist, and they're held within families, and they get sold in private sales, or they will literally exchange the bangle for a large building. And gemstones are unique because the value is subjective, but not subjective in a prohibitive way, and not like gold or silver, where it's always malleable and it's always exact by weight. These stones, because they vary up and down by the weight of them, and the scale changes all the time, you can't quantify the value correctly. So whatever you pay for, and that has some advantages to it. Now this is the bangle. Now one of the things about jade, you hear that glassy type or metal type sound? That's what jade sounds like. It's unusual for a stone. In fact, I was for many years when I lived out in California, when I had my import-export business, And when I first arrived there, when I got out of the army, and I love that state, but I'm done. I'm retired now. But I would find, and I flipped companies too back then, or my business did. But I would go and I would find you would find jade when you would go out to areas where there were gems, and you would find jade deposits along with your sapphire and opal and everything else, and diamonds. And sometimes you would just tap on the rocks, and you could hear that just on the surface, the metal. And you'd be somewhere in the desert or something, you would find a jade deposit. And there's two types of jade: nephrite jade and jadeite. They're two different minerals, but they're recognized as jade. Jadeite is more valuable. There's a lot of treatments out there. Now, I'm going to show you something because this is kind of important to know. Um, these these are not treated. This is all jade. These are jade beads. It comes in a lot of different color and shades. The green is the most valuable. The quality, some people say origin affects the value. Honestly, you see South American and Central American jade, if it's in the same quality as the Burmese jade, which is the trick, it's just as valuable. But you see cheap Burmese jade too, which is and then this one is treated. And treated jade, this is like a couple of dollars only, just a couple of dollars. This one is a few hundred. This one's let me see here. This is probably a few $100. This one, 1,000. This one, a little less than 3,000. This one, a few hundred. And this one, and there's a lot that will look just like this one, which is tricky. This one is a nice car. But the thing is, if you take a black light and it's been treated, well, the first thing you do is you take a powerful flashlight and you look at the inclusion and you look for signs of treatment, and there's videos on how to do that. And then the other thing you want to do, and you're looking for signs that it's been treated with a resin or something, and a coloring agent. Because jade is not rare, but quality jade is rare that can be used and has good color and is stable, that won't break because of other impurities. Jade is the toughest mineral that exists, but it's not the hardest. Diamonds have sold the idea of toughness, of hardness, but toughness is actually what determines a stone's survivability in most cases. So that's something besides the market. But you can have imperfections that can make it break easily or scratch easily because it's not all jade, or there's natural crack inclusions. But with the black light, the UV light helps you see a lot of the coloring agents and resins inside of most of the jade that are used. And that's a very useful thing. So having a black light on your loupe is strong, or a light will help both of those things. And if the light is strong, what I can do is I can take a light on a gemstone. People that know what they're doing, they will take it to the side of the stone, not underneath to the top, because they're hiding typically things, imperfections in the stone or treatments, usually someplace that's not viewed regularly. So if you put it up the side, you a lot of times can see easily if you're looking at it without the magnification, or with the magnification by putting a light up. But black light, that's a very useful tool when you're dealing with jade. Another thing is is that jade comes in like this is a jade pendant, and it's values. You will see cabochons like this one. This one I bought for just a couple of dollars, and it's not. And they think, well, it looks like that, and it says China inside of it. Well, who likes jade? The Chinese. Well, it could be treated. This one's not, but that's a bad mistake if you see that and you're trying to screen out the value of something, because a lot of people in Hong Kong and stuff, or in Shenzhen, they have a lot of money. You're talking people that have unreported wealth because it's not all in real estate or stocks, and they could be among the wealthiest people in the world, and they happen to really love jade. And it's not a bad thing because it's a survivable stone. This is a jade band. It's green jade. And this, I believe, is a reddish jade band. And again, you can hear Let me see here. Yes, so it makes the noise. And you'll find these, and they can be worth a little bit of money too, depending on the type of jade and the quality. And there's different. I forgot to bring in the one that has they have a jade that has almost like a moonstone effect. It's on what's called it's white copper. They call it um, Tibetan copper, and we call it silver nickel. And these are white alloys of copper that look pretty much like silver. And so you have to watch for those things in the fake. They have alpaca, which is not silver either, in Mexico. And a lot of people think it's silver, and it's not. It's white copper. But it can still be very valuable because some of that stuff is vintage and collectible, because a lot of it contained lead bearing metals. They couldn't really use it anymore because they even used it in silverware and teapots at one time until the 1950s, like from the 1920s to 1950s. But another thing is, this is a good example. So sapphire, ruby, spinel, they're going to typically be cut with a pavilion where it goes up and it has multiple layers. So this, you can kind of see it. Now this is in copper, white copper. But this is a verified, lab reported spinel, and it's over 100 carats. And you can find things like that, but you have to be very careful in the metals, because there's many reasons, other reasons too, that something could be in a less valuable metal. Gold and things have been restricted in some countries for a while, like they were in the Depression. You have many types of Islam. Men are not allowed to wear gold because it's an ornament for the man. So you could find something in silver or something, and if it's a real stone and it's any decent, per gram it's almost certainly to be worth more than the gold. If you think about what they charge for the stone and everything, and you add all that up, I mean, wouldn't you love to have a 1 ounce diamond or a 1 ounce ruby or a 1 ounce sapphire that is of any type of quality? You can imagine that it would be worth hundreds of millions or even over $1 billion. And yet what I just told you about bangles that are made of jade, the stones are nothing to sneeze at. They're hard to sell because you have to auction them, because you have to have a lot of very wealthy people competing for them and wanting them. So it's true. And you have other kinds of minerals, like you have bone or ivory, and this type of thing, these are all not exactly proportioned 100%. They're very close, but this would have had to have been scrolled and cut to get this into the cross. And something like that is hard to sell, but if you can verify that it's legal, could be worth a considerable amount of money. Now, so we'll finish off on stones a little bit, and we'll get to the metals, because a lot of people talk about metals, they don't talk that much about stones. I look for, at the feel, different stones kind of have a certain feel to them. I look, and you'll learn as you try. If you go online, you can find about the occlusions, sapphires tend to have a hexagonal shape because the crystals come up that way. And again, when you talk about the pavilions, like in a spinel, like spinels are kind of triangular to almost appear almost as a diamond shape, but they're not. Anyway, basically, when they create the pavilion, they will create the pavilion more shaped in that shape because they're going with the shape of the overall crystal. So when they cut things sometimes that way, but they can cut a sapphire or a ruby that way, but most often sometimes it affects the cut. And if you see a certain cut a certain way, even before you get to your testers and stuff, it increases the probability that it's one type of stone or the other. Also, the colors that it fluoresces or doesn't can be helpful in figuring out that, and the way that the light hits it, not just the refraction, but the sheen that it has. This actually was natural, and it was in silver, and I bought it from a guy. He had some stuff from the estate at a thrift store, and I paid more than the smelting price, because I typically buy the things that have certain stones in them or certain vintage. So, and I make sure that they would have a certain value. Then I'm more of a collector, but I pay more than the pawn shop would pay them. Anyway, this is a natural, and what I could see, you probably can't see it in the thing. It has a color shift to it too, which makes it rare, which from blue to purple. But it has some holes in the color, and if you look on the magnification, you can see around them how the hexagonal shape them. So this is very clean too, and it's of a decent size, and it's a rarer one. And I didn't see the color shift when I bought it because I didn't have the right light. You can see things that might be smaller. Uh, this is a very small diamond cross, and it was on a bracelet as a charm, and it might have been on a necklace at one time. And the metal stamp is so small, and it's such a weird angle and spot that someone could even look at it or loop if they didn't know just from the looks of the stones that these were not CZs or white sapphire, and they're still fairly clean. And or see the fluorescence, they may miss it. They may not keep looking for the metal mark, and so even something like that small could be worth over. It could be worth between $80 and $250. Um, this is the moonstone, and these I bought. So I'm going to show you this. This is in silver. It's an intentionally oxidized silver. It's from one of the jewelers that I have dealt with internationally, and it has real diamonds around it and a real moonstone. And this is another one. These are pink tourmalines, and it's gold and silver, and it has real diamonds around it, even on the clasp, and it has silver, but the stones are all real, all of it. This is a natural aquamarine and real diamonds, and the other one, that moonstone had a missing stone. And the other jeweler learned about it, and you'll see that there's one that just stands out. It's a much, much higher quality stone. It's because a guy learned that he gypped me on a stone because he was selling a piece that, and so he's like, it's almost like a wink. I got you there. So he kind of threw me a nicer stone.